In the 10th year of his prophethood, Muhammad faced a dual tragedy that historians call al-Huzn, the year of sorrow. Within months, he lost Khadijah, his wife and greatest emotional anchor, and Abu Talib, his uncle and political protector. Without Abu Talib's tribal protection, the elites of Mecca immediately escalated their attacks. The psychological toll of his grief was compounded by sudden, severe physical hostility in the streets of his own city. Seeking a new sanctuary, he traveled to the neighboring city of Ta'if. The residents responded by driving him out with stones, leaving him bleeding and exhausted. Every earthly door of support had firmly closed. Sitting in isolation, he prayed. He did not ask for vengeance against the people of Ta'if, nor did he abandon his mission. He simply asked his Creator for strength, accepting his complete vulnerability. That specific moment of absolute earthly hardship became the prerequisite for what followed. When human support vanishes completely, divine support arrives to fill the void. One night, while he was sleeping near the Kaaba in the semicircular area known as the Hijj, the angel Jibril descended. His arrival marked the sudden end of the prophet's isolation. Jibril performed a physical and spiritual preparation. He opened the prophet's chest, removed his heart, and washed it with water from the Zamzam well, an ancient spring located within the sanctuary. Fortifying the heart with wisdom and faith reinforced the prophet's physical being for the journey ahead. He was about to be subjected to forces and velocities far beyond human endurance, requiring a spiritual resilience that superseded the laws of physics. He was being prepared for a vertical ascension, and that scale of elevation requires a completely purified vessel. Jibril presented a heavenly mount called Al-Burāq. Described as a white creature, larger than a donkey but smaller than a mule, its speed was incomprehensible. It placed its hoof at the furthest edge of its vision, folding time and space with every stride. The flight toward Jerusalem included highly specific intermediate stops. They paused at Taiba, the future city of Medina, then Mount Sinai, where Musa, or Moses, received his revelation, and Bethlehem, the birthplace of Isa, or Jesus. The horizontal journey ended here, at Al-Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem. Upon arriving at the farthest mosque, the prophet dismounted. He walked up to the gates and tethered Al-Burāq to the exact same ring that had been used by the prophets who came before him. Waiting inside was a congregation unlike any in history, the souls of all the previous prophets. The Prophet Muhammad stepped forward and led them in ritual prayer. By guiding Adam, Ibrahim, Musa, and Isa in worship, his role was made explicitly clear. He was the final iteration of their shared divine call and the concluding leader of the Abrahamic tradition. All filled. After the prayer, Jibril approached him carrying 2 vessels, one filled with wine, the other with milk. The prophet chose the milk. Jibril smiled and confirmed that he had chosen the fitra, the pure, natural inclination of human beings toward the truth. By leading this congregation and choosing the natural path, the legacy of all previous monotheistic prophets was officially unified. They stood behind one final, definitive leader before his journey moved beyond the earth entirely. The horizontal journey, Al-Isra, was complete. Now began Al-Miraj, the vertical ascension into the heavens. The prophet and Jibril ascended through 7 distinct celestial levels. At each boundary, Jibril had to request permission from the angelic guards for them to enter. In these heavens, he met the prophets again, stationed at different ranks. As they ascended through the first 5 levels of heaven, the prophet was greeted by his predecessors. He met Adam in the first heaven, Isa and Yahya in the second, Yusuf, who possessed half of all worldly beauty, in the third, Idris in the fourth, and Harun in the fifth. Each one welcomed him, calling him a pious brother and a pious prophet. In the sixth heaven, he met Musa. As they parted ways, Musa began to weep. When asked why, Musa explained his tears came from realizing that this younger prophet, sent after him, would see a greater number of his followers enter paradise than Musa's own people. Finally, at the seventh and highest heaven, he encountered Ibrahim. The patriarch of monotheism was leaning his back against Al-Bayt al-Mamur, the celestial Kaaba, a celestial house of worship located directly above the earthly Kaaba, where 70,000 angels enter daily to worship and never return. Passing through these specific stations was a systematic confirmation. The prophet was physically retracing the lineage of revelation, cementing the eternal continuity of the prophetic brotherhood, and establishing his ultimate rank among them. Jibril then led him to the absolute limit of creation, Sidrat al-Muntahā, the lote tree of the utmost boundary. The prophet described its leaves like the ears of elephants and its fruits like massive clay jugs. It was shrouded in indescribable, shifting colors. This is the boundary beyond which no creation, not even the angel Jibril, can pass. At the root of this massive tree, the prophet saw 4 rivers. Jibril explained that 2 were hidden in paradise, but the other 2 were apparent, earthly rivers, the Nile and the Euphrates, serving as physical anchors connecting the divine realm down to the recognizable geography of human civilization. Here, in the ultimate divine presence, Allah decreed a massive obligation upon the Ummah, 50 daily prayers. The prophet, in total submission, accepted this command and began his descent. But on his way down, he crossed paths with Musa again. Musa, drawing on his difficult experience leading the children of Israel, warned that 50 prayers would be too heavy a burden for the people. He urged Muhammad to return to his Lord and ask for a reduction. The prophet went back and forth between Allah and Musa, with the number dropping by increments of 5, until only 5 daily prayers remained. Even at 5, Musa suggested asking for less, but the prophet felt too shy to ask again. And then the divine decree was finalized. The prayers would be 5 in physical action, but Allah, out of ultimate mercy, would reward each one tenfold, making the 5 prayers equal to the original 50 in divine reward. The prophet descended back to Mecca in the dark of that very same night. The entire journey, spanning the physical earth and the 7 heavens, happened so swiftly that when he returned, his bed was still warm and the latch on his door was still swaying. The following morning, he publicly shared what he had experienced. The Quraysh immediately seized the opportunity to mock him. They applied strict earthly logic to his claim, arguing that their fastest caravans took an entire month just to reach Jerusalem and another month to come back. Knowing that Prophet Muhammad had never visited Jerusalem before, the interrogators laid a trap. They demanded he describe the precise architectural details of Bayt al-Maqdis, fully expecting him to stumble and expose himself as a fraud. The Quraysh weaponized the limits of human physics and geography. Because they could not intellectually comprehend a journey outside the bounds of space and time, they assumed the divine intervention was just a hallucination. The skeptics saw an opportunity to expose him. Merchants challenged him to describe Jerusalem's specific architecture, knowing he had never traveled there. In response, Allah lifted the veil of distance. The physical sanctuary manifested before his eyes. He calmly detailed the exact number of gates, pillars, and walls, leaving the merchants in stunned silence. When the mockers rushed to Abu Bakr, the Prophet's closest companion, hoping to shake his belief, his response was immediate and unwavering. If he said it, he has spoken the truth. Abu Bakr's reaction established the definitive benchmark for Iman, or steadfast faith. He trusted the proven character of the messenger over the apparent limitations of human physics and geography. The physical ascension was a deeply personal gift to console a grieving prophet, but he did not return empty-handed. He brought back a mechanism for his people to experience that same proximity to the divine. Salah, the 5 daily prayers, became known as the Miraj of the believer. It is a direct, unfiltered connection to the divine, woven into the daily rhythm of life. Al-Isra, while Miraj, remains a living blueprint. It proves that the deepest earthly isolation is often the exact launchpad for highest spiritual elevation.